Welcome back to the Jungle King 007 channel. You like the new table? Just built it myself. But that's not what this video is about. Let's come over here to this disaster, see if we can pull out the ultrasonic cleaner and see what we can get ourselves into trouble with. Oh, don't break things. So we'll let this thing warm up. Let's talk about the tools. So I've been getting a couple comments on the previous video I did concerning this here. This is a Vevor 15 liter ultrasonic cleaner. That last video was not necessarily me trying to get the rust off. It was just me messing around to see if it would clean stuff. But the comments were stating, you should be, trying to get some of that rust off and use some vinegar. This is cleaning vinegar found at the local hardware store. You can use white, I think it's distilled white vinegar, any of those will be fine. If I'm not mistaken, cleaning vinegar is a higher concentration, so this might be a little bit better. Problem is, I can only get it in 2 quarts. I've only found it in 2-quart jugs, so you saw me do 2 of them. What is it? 4 quarts is a gallon. 2 of these equals a gallon. Then I had another gallon, so we threw 2 gallons of mixture, we can say. So it should be a 1-to-1 mix in here to see about cleaning these guys. So what we got here are just some random tools, couple axe heads. This, I believe, was part of an engineering protractor set, but everything has, oh yeah, these right here. These, I'm curious to see what these do. Those are nuts and bolts off of the stand where this table saw used to sit on. And I'm cleaning them up so I can then put them in storage. So just curious to see what this does on these parts. So let's let this finish warming up and we'll drop stuff in, hit the start button, see what happens. So temperature is getting up there. It's about 96. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the stuff in here. I did up the temperature here, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let this stuff sit in here soaking while it's still warming up. I don't think, will it cover everything? I guess I didn't put enough water in here, but I'm gonna leave it like that. So if, especially on this one, maybe on these guys, if we see a line, then obviously we know it's cleaning or it's not cleaning, who knows. But I'm gonna let it sit for a little bit longer. Let's go ahead and put the top on, let it warm up, and then we'll hit the on button. So it didn't take very long for the vinegar to start doing its job. I'm not sure if actually it should be catching it. If you see all those bubbles, vinegar is already starting to work on the rust. So that should be a really good indication that, what I'm doing here is in the step in the right direction. So I don't know, I wanted you guys to see this real quick because we're still letting it, oh wait, hey, we have movement. Yay, there's actually a number. Last time it took forever for that to show up. So let's just do a little bit of a close-up. See if I can get some good pan zoom shots for you to see everything in here beforehand. I guess I should also say another comment stated that the last time I did this, I guess I just threw everything in here and it was just all a jumbled mess. But for the ultrasonic action to actually work, it has to have spaces in between. So all this stuff is set up so that you can see that they're not really touching. There is open space. I mean, save for the nuts and bolts, which are in a little dinky little jewelry thing. Everything is not touching each other, so there should be ample room for everything, for the sonar, what is it, sonic, the waves and everything to do their job in here. So, but this right here, this piece right here is getting the most action right now out of the vinegar solution. All those bubbles, you can see them coming up. Let me see if I can get a shot right in there. Zoom in a little bit more. Yeah, you can see them bubbling up in there. So just a little bit more. Get out of the light here, just so you can see it. So let's let this finish up. Let's let it warm up, because now it's actually starting to show some movement. Let's check this now. Yeah, 89. Looks like it's dropped a little bit more. Yeah, well, it's cold out here. I put cold steel into this thing, so yeah, it's gonna drop drop the temperature. So let's let that number get up there a little bit more, and then we will begin. All right, I'm impatient. I want to see what's going on. Let's also check the temperature. 102 without the glare. And everything's looking good, so I'm going to go ahead and start it. I have it set to 30 minutes, so watch your ears. Here we go in 3, 2, 1. Holy cow. Look at all the rust already popping off. It has already started working that quickly. Basically just blowing the rust right off of that. I think it was that one right there. So, let's let that sit for a bit. I'm going to pause it for a second. We're roughly at the 15-minute mark. Just want to see what some of this stuff looks like. Let's pull up the screws and nuts and bolts. Well, they definitely look much better than they did before. Still some of the heavy rust. Put that back. See the screwdriver. Screwdriver is clear. I think it's like 98%. There's just a couple spots in there, so that's really cool. Let's check this right here. It's doing a decent job. Look at that. That is really cool. No scrubbing whatsoever. Ultrasonic Cleaner is doing everything. So that used to be all rust. That's all surface rust. All right, let's put that back so it's not touching anything. Yeah, let's go ahead and just pull this guy up. Yeah, this guy's probably going to need a couple passes, but we're starting to see some metal show. It's looking much better. Still rusty, obviously. This guy I want to see. I can actually see numbers now. Heavy rust there. Was a bit rusty on the bottom. Yeah, that actually had a lot of rust on it, I think, too. So that's getting cleaned pretty well as well. All right, come on, get back in there. And can I get in there? Yeah. That one was heavy, but you can start seeing right in here it is starting to clear up some of that rust. This was heavy rust, I would assume. But you can start seeing it's clearing it up pretty nicely here on the edge. Everything up here, it probably need a couple passes on that. But this is only 15 minutes. And then it also sitting in there for probably an additional 10, 15. Yeah, that's gonna take a while. I might be lucky just to start having to put a grinder to it, but I was hoping not to. So we'll let this finish up and we'll come back to it. Chicken's done. Let's see how everything turned out. This is 15 minutes later, full 30 minutes now. This one is on the right track. I can see that most of it now is pretty clear. We're still back here, probably where somebody was holding it a lot. There's gonna be a lot more rust than normal. So that is cool. Let's get the rest of this out of here. I'm gonna move it over to the side and we can see what the rest of the stuff looks like. Sweet. All right, let's see what this stuff looks like. Let's move this out of the way. Get some of these set down. Yeah, they're gonna get wet. Okay, this one we didn't see before. Let's see if I can get somewhere there's not the glare. I mean, it looks better. You can actually see some of the metal starting to show through. Right here on the back, all this in the back. Yeah, like right up in there. So this is getting there. A lot more, still a lot of surface rust on it. So we'll probably throw that back in a little bit for a little bit longer. This, mainly right up in here, but the rest of it's still pretty rusty. Probably have to run a couple more passes on that. This one, obviously, we've already seen. That is looking very good. So the screwdriver, I don't see, well, maybe some heavy rust, some of the big stuff right there where my thumb is. And then some here. Actually, you can actually read Phillips. What does it say? Phillips. Is that a part number? Yeah, it says Phillips LICIL. Made in the USA, right in here. That I couldn't see before. So that is pretty much clean. This piece, I mean, other than what's inside the little ridges and stuff, that is almost completely clear. You got some of the heavy rust up here in the little sections here. This is the little knob here, can actually move now. It couldn't before. And let me check this knob. Oh, yep, that knob can move now as well. Let's see, maybe, can this knob move as well? Yep, so that one is also movable. I'm trying to see, will this thing move like it's supposed to? Because I think the center piece on this thing is supposed to move. Nope, that's still solid rust. This next one, you can see the line going right across up here. Oh, is it glaring? Let's see. But all the rust, it looks like it's, well, not rust free, but there's still some heavy rust over here. Over here, it is pitted, but I'm actually getting some of this off in my hands. Let's see if I can get a brush on here. Yep, and let's go ahead and pat it down, see what that does. There it is. I just have to wipe some of it off. So it is actually cleaning off some of that surface rust that was still there. You still got to put some elbow grease into it. So it looks like some of the metal's actually coming back through. Yeah, so I can see some right there, some right in here. So this one we'll probably put through. I'm gonna actually do what I was doing with this thing on that. This So a lot of these hand tools look like they're going to be the ones that'll have an easier time in the bath. You can see all the metal now on this, so that is getting there. Rust is pretty much non-existent on this now. These scissors. That is really cool, and these used to be pretty heavily rusted. And those are actually really smooth now. They used to not be. So that's cleaned up. All the bolts. Usually most of the heads were pretty rusted, caked on. That one is getting there. You can start seeing the heads on those. These are starting to show up. No rust on them. Well, obviously there's still rust on them, but it's actually getting them much cleaner. So this is a step in the right direction. I'm actually liking this. This one, let's do a wire brush. Look at that. We're starting to get some of that heavy stuff off. I'm seeing some of the white steel in there now. That is really cool. This is really cool. I'm actually gonna probably put these back in here for another 30 minutes. Let me do this real quick. Yeah, we are getting there. This is only 30 minutes of it sitting in that ultrasonic cleaner. Probably sat in there for another 10-15 minutes beforehand, just letting the heat build up. I'm gonna hit all this stuff with the wire brush, try to get some of the heavier stuff built off or kind of brushed off, and then I'm gonna throw all this stuff back in there. And what I'm also gonna do, now that I've gotten some of this started, I don't know, I may just throw this in there, see what happens. I've had this lying around for a bit. Maybe, let's just do, sure, why not? Let's do a half scoop. Uh-oh. That's gonna foam up. Maybe not a good idea. Let me clean that up. Stand by. Let's see. Don't try this at home. All right. Not the worst thing in the world, but it's not getting worse. All right, let's stop that. Let's pan you back over here. Again, let's hit this stuff with a wire brush. I'm gonna let that dissipate a little bit, and then I'll throw that back in there for another 30 minutes, see what happens. So the surface rust is again starting to form because it's been out of the water so long. But just to show you real fast here, this is after about maybe 20 or 30 seconds of scrubbing with a brass and steel bristle brush. I can actually see numbers and letters. These used to not be here before. I think it's like Andres, A-N-D-R-E-R-E-S or something like that. And then there's B10. This, I didn't know that there was lettering on here. It says 9-inch auto. You can actually read this much better now. Let's see if focus. Yeah, you can read that much better now. And then this, yeah, surface rust is starting to form again. But it really, the heavy stuff is non-existent now after I've done that brass brush on this one. I didn't want to do the steel brush on it. But you can read everything. This still can't move, but I'm hoping this second run through will get it completely cleaned off now that the bubbles have dissipated. I don't know if that was a mistake, but hopefully I didn't. Because I think vinegar is an acid, and hopefully what I just did with the OxiClean did not kind of, cancel each other out. But we'll see. I'm going to throw this back in and see what happens. You can actually see some of the white shining through, some of the raw metal, raw steel right there. That is so much rust on that. I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but I would say this is a worst case scenario that you can see. There's a little bit, but this one is maybe so far gone that I may not be able to get it with just a little tiny brush. How to get my wire wheel out. Oh, and these guys. those, I hit them with a little bit of a wire brush, and there's still a little bit on there, but that is to be expected. They're tiny, and I can't hit them with the, it's a bit difficult doing a lot of those. So I'm gonna run this through one more time, see what they do. So let's go ahead and get this back into the bath and start it up. All right, here we go. Let's go ahead and put the top on this time. And contact. We'll let it run. All right, let's see what this stuff looks like now. Yep, there's definitely some surface rust from the last bit. Let's get you in a little bit closer. So OxiClean has done a really good job at degreasing these. Not so much for the rust, the removal of the rust. However, that looks really nice, except for right here on the tips, which will probably need to be hit with a wire wheel. Well, wire brush is actually doing a decent job. Looks really clean. Heavy pitting on there now, which is to be expected because of how much rust was on here. That actually, this worked out better than I expected. I was not expecting it to clean it this fast. Let's, I'm gonna put them into this pan here because I want to put some oil on these things before the surface rust comes back. But yeah, these are actually turning out really nice. So I'll clean up the rest of these. I think at this point the video gets the point across. Ultrasonic cleaner plus some vinegar and hot water and about a little bit of time. I think total probably about an hour and a half to just making this video, just to show, you know, this actually works now. This moves because the rust is not holding it in. It actually runs much smoother now. So yeah, that's cool. Look at that. There's much less rust. Let's look at this one. I think this is what my grandfather made out of an old crowbar. Heavy pitting, but the rust is gone. Those are now oxidized. So yeah, see, heavy oxidation from probably the OxiClean did that. Again, the screwdriver is pretty much completely cleaned off. So I'm going to call that a win. Got this guy back up and rustless. Wondering if the reason why this is discolored is because of the brass that was used. Maybe not. That's just more surface rust. But that is nice and clean. Is this thing, is it movable now? Will this move? Nope, still not. Still completely rusted. I'll probably put some PB Blaster on that for a while just to see if it'll loosen it up, but most of the rust is gone. These guys, definitely much cleaner now. On these ones, let's use a steel brush. So yeah, all that's removed, and it looks like all the rust, the heavy rust, is now starting to oxidize. So this will, is it oxidized? I think it's oxidized. But it's starting to come off, so I can hit that with a wire wheel, get the rest of the heavy stuff off. Those are good. This guy looks, it's just coming right off. just rubbing right off. I don't think there was a name on this one. I think this was I've got a whole box of all these heads, axe heads and hatchet heads, and all those. I just wanted a couple of them to actually use. Some of them are collectors. So that looks much better. Still a little bit of rust on the edges. I'll clean that up later. This one I think is basically a lost cause. You can see where the rust line was, or the water line was. Oh, maybe. Steel. Let's hit it with the steel. Oh, there we go. Now we're starting to get through it. So now we can see some of the solid steel. That was some heavy rust on this thing. I'm gonna be running on this one for a while. So let's get to this guy. This one, what I was worried about. You can still see from where it was before. Oh, I keep picking that one up. I want the steel one. It's getting there. The heavy stuff is definitely coming off. I'd say if you're gonna want to do this much quicker, obviously a wire wheel will do it. But for this experiment, definitely shows that a ultrasonic cleaner with some vinegar made quick work of all this heavy rust. So I think this speaks for itself. Hopefully you liked watching this video. I learned something on this one, and thank you all for the comments on the last video. Put this video in the works just so I could see what happens. So again, thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe if you like. I will see you on the next video.